So with details on a House vote today, a resolution that condemns President Trump's racist comments about 4 congresswomen of color.
Months have passed and the Bogert pavilion shell, it's still crumbling. But now there are 4 options on the table for city commissioners to consider for its future.
Good morning and welcome to your Tuesday. I'm Missy O'Malley with Chet Lehman. It is 6:29. Matt Elwell has our forecast here in just a moment. The House of Representatives has prepared a resolution condemning remarks made by President Trump about 4 freshman congresswomen.
And a vote on that measure could come as soon as today. Laura Podesta reports this morning from New York.
President Trump has doubled down on his criticism of a group of first-term congressional Democrats known as the Squad. All 4 are women of color and outspoken critics of the White House.
If you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet, which I guess some people think is controversial. A lot of people love it, by the way.
On Twitter this past weekend, the president said the lawmakers should go back to the broken and crime-infested countries they came from. Only one of the 4, Minnesota's Ilhan Omar, was born outside the U.S. She came here from Somalia when she was a child.
This is the agenda of white nationalists. Whether it is happening in chat rooms or it's happening on national TV, and now it's reached the White House garden.
On Monday, the women responded to the president's attacks.
He does not know how to defend his policies. So what he does is attack us personally.
Nearly all Democrats weighed in on the president's remarks, but few Republicans did.
The tweets are racist and xenophobic, period, in the story, and they're also not accurate.
Come on, of course the president's not racist, but he's frustrated like so many Americans are.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called on GOP leaders to stand up to the president. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Now, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy accused Democrats of playing politics by trying to force a vote on a measure to condemn the president's statements. McCarthy also said the president is not a racist.
Here in Montana, U.S. Senator Steve Daines reacted to the president's tweet saying Montanans are sick and tired of listening to anti-American, anti-Semite, radical Democrats trash our country and our ideals. This is America. We're in the greatest country in the world, and I stand with Donald J. Trump, unquote.
Also, Montana's other Senator John Tester has a different opinion. He says we should be able to disagree on policy and politics without devolving into divisive, hateful rhetoric. These comments were reprehensible and far beneath the office of the presidency. 6:31 now. Meteorologist Matt Elwell joins us. Matt, kind of an interesting start to our Tuesday. Has it's been here for the last couple of days?
Yep.
This is just going to be the new norm? What are we doing?
No, I think we're kind of wrapping up our rain for the most part. Temperatures this morning into the 50s. We had some rain-soaked roads across the area before dawn. It looks like our potential for showers and thunderstorms will pick up once again this afternoon. Daytime highs into the low to mid 70s. I think it is going to be a little cooler than average for most of the area, but more thunder showers are on the way. We're going to break down your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you for that, Matt. Some sad news to pass along here. A Gallatin County search and rescue team member was killed on Sunday in a rock climbing accident on Mark Cowan in Park County.
Yeah, Travis Swanson was climbing with 2 other search and rescue members when he and another climber were swept down a slope after a rock fall. Park County Sheriff's Office and Gallatin County Search and Rescue were able to recover Swanson and rescued the other climber.
It wasn't their fault. There's things that you have no control over. They did an outstanding job, Jackson especially. He pretty much saved Will's life, and which is amazing in the circumstances that was happening. But you can't be too careful, but you also have things that are out of your control.
Swanson had been with Gallatin County Search and Rescue for 12 years.
Incredibly sad story.
Absolutely
there.
True.
And a Belgrade woman is in trouble after police say they found her injecting herself with meth in a Bozeman McDonald's parking lot. Desiree Young is charged with 5 counts of having dangerous or illegal drugs, meth, heroin, and marijuana. And a warrant was out for her arrest. Police also found several meth pipes, a bag with heroin in it, and containers holding both meth and marijuana in her car. Young could face up to 5 years in prison on each of those 5 charges.
In other headlines now at 6:33, the Bozeman City Commission says it will go with the most expensive and most weatherproof method of repairing the Bogert Pavilion shell.
After a long discussion on Monday night, commissioners voted to completely replace 8 of the structures of those 10 beams. MTN's Cody Boyer walks us through the board's options leading up to their decision.
Bozeman City Commissioners have 4 options on the table, ranging from fixing the shell after it partially collapsed nearly 4 months ago to destroying it completely. It's a decision that those that enjoy Bogert and the shell that has stood here for decades say could change the face of the park altogether.
It's kind of now just, what's going to happen to it and kind of the whole eyesore, and just a lot of people use it. So it's just sad that it's just sitting there.
Over 3 months ago, a wooden beam failed under the weight of falling snow, splintering under the pressure. Jessica Del Grande is one of several who worry about its future.
If there's a way to salvage it and keep it, just because it's a great dome. If the rest of the structure isn't safe to keep, then, I guess there's no other way around it.
For Bozeman Strategic Services Director John Henderson, came down to 4 choices.
They really span the range of everything from splicing some of the rotted sections out of the failed beam and replacing it with new wood, to replacing one of the beams in its entirety and 3 other half beams.
Now, the City Commission were working with 4 different options. Option number 1 was a range between about $180,000 and about $230,000, involving the repair of 1 beam and a portion of the beams around it. That includes weatherproofing. Option number 2, the most expensive, bring the pavilion up to new city code, including strength against seismic or wind damage, about $520,000 to about $650,000. Behind door number 3, the cheapest, replace just the collapse beam and fix the roof, between about $147,000 and $167,000. Option number 4, demolish it altogether, roughly $230,000, and due to developmental rules, nothing could be rebuilt here again.
That goes all the way down to changing the material and construction type of the facility, and a lot of it has to do with the proximity to the creek in that flood zone.
At any rate, both Henderson and those like Del Grande agree it would be nice if the shell could stick around.
Save it for sure. You can't save it, rebuild it.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Now, this decision would bring the shell completely up to date with the current building code. It is still up to the city manager to pursue the decision and figure out that financing.
Also, new information surrounding fundraising dollars from Montana's congressional candidates. In the race for the House, Democrat Kathleen Williams leads with $430,000. Tom Winter of Missoula pulled in $130,000. Republican Matt Rosendale so far has raised $263,000. In just 2 weeks, Secretary of State Corey Stapleton says he's raised $108,000. And for Senate incumbent Steve Daines, he's racked up $1.3 million so far in fundraising.
And the state Republican Party has filed an ethics complaint against Governor Steve Bullock over his use of Montana Highway Patrol officers for security as he campaigns for president.
But as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, the governor had already taken steps to head off the criticism.
When Governor Bullock traveled to Iowa to kick off his presidential campaign in mid-May, he had his usual security detail of 2 Montana Highway Patrol officers. We reported then that the state Justice Department pays the bill for Bullock's security, whether he's campaigning or not. Within the next 2 weeks, a Republican Political Action Committee and the state GOP criticized the Democratic governor for campaigning on the public dime. And Republican Attorney General Tim Fox notified the governor that highway patrol officers would no longer accompany Bullock on campaign trips. And finally, last Friday, State GOP Chairman Don Kaltschmidt filed a formal ethics complaint with the State Political Practices Office, saying Bullock is violating the law by using state resources to campaign. But as of 2 weeks ago, the governor amended his security agreement with the Justice Department and said going forward his presidential campaign will pay any incidental expenses incurred by a security detail while he campaigns. Those include travel, lodging, and meal expenses. The governor's office says it does not include the officers' salaries because that cost will be paid anyways no matter what the governor is doing. Bullock's office also says it has asked the State Commissioner of Political Practices for an advisory opinion to make sure the arrangement meets state law. The Commissioner's office confirmed Monday it has received the ethics complaint and the governor's request, but had no further comment. We also asked if the governor's presidential campaign planned to reimburse the state for any incidental security costs incurred before the new agreement took effect. They said no, because that activity was under the old agreement, which says justice decides when to provide the security and pays for it. Governor Bullock was in Helena Monday at a meeting of the State Land Board and for a news conference on a mine cleanup project, but on Tuesday he heads out for Washington, D.C., New York, and Iowa on another presidential campaign trip, and state security will be with him. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
By the way, just as a reminder, Governor Bullock is one of 24 Democrats trying to get the party's presidential nomination in 2020.
It is time for a quick